Welcome to Books Arena, where we bring powerful ideas from the best books into your daily life. Today, we begin exploring a book that holds the secret to achieving meaningful success in a world full of noise. Deep Work by Cal Newport. Imagine this: you are sitting in front of your computer. You have an important task to complete, perhaps a project that could define your career, or an assignment that really matters. You open your email just to quickly check, then a notification from a messaging app pops up. 5 minutes later, you are scrolling through a news website, and soon, social media swallows your attention. You come back to your work, but now your focus is broken. That flow, that rare state of deep concentration, has vanished. This is the world most people live in every day. Cal Newport, a computer science professor and productivity expert, saw this happening all around him. He noticed a pattern among high performers, from authors and scientists to CEOs and software engineers. These people had one thing in common: they protected their time and trained their minds to focus deeply on tasks that mattered. Newport calls this ability deep work, a skill that is becoming increasingly rare but also more valuable in the modern economy. Let us start with the man behind the message. Cal Newport is not your usual productivity guru. He is a professor at Georgetown University, known for writing rigorous academic papers as well as best-selling books. He is also famously not on social media. That is right, no Twitter, no Instagram, not even LinkedIn. His focus is razor sharp, and he credits that focus for much of his success. In Deep Work, he explains how anyone, whether you are a student, a manager, a writer, or an entrepreneur, can build the same kind of deep focus to thrive in any field. But why do we need this book now, more than ever? We are living in a time when distraction is not just common, it is constant. The average knowledge worker spends more than half their day checking emails or in meetings. Most people are interrupted every 3 to 5 minutes while working. The result? Shallow work. Work that is superficial, reactive, and unfocused. Newport argues that while this kind of work might keep us busy, it does not create real value. It does not lead to innovation, deep thinking, or long-term success. Think of it like this. Imagine two people sitting in a library. One is skimming articles, answering messages, and hopping between tabs. The other is reading a single book, taking notes, and thinking deeply about one subject. Who do you think will produce better results in the long run? Newport's answer is clear: the second person is practicing deep work, and that is the type of focus that builds expertise and leads to mastery. To illustrate the power of deep work, Newport gives several real-life examples. Consider Carl Jung, the legendary psychiatrist. In the 1920s, Jung built a stone tower by a lake in the Swiss countryside, a place with no electricity, no running water, and no distractions. He would retreat there to think, write, and develop his groundbreaking theories. Or think of Bill Gates, who regularly isolated himself for think weeks during his time at Microsoft, using that time to read, reflect, and make strategic decisions that shaped the future of the company. These are not just interesting stories. They show how deep work is not a luxury, it is a necessity for anyone who wants to do something meaningful. In a world where most people skim, scroll, and react, those who train themselves to go deep will stand out. They will understand problems better, develop more creative solutions, and make faster progress toward their goals. However, Newport is not just saying work hard. Deep work is not about grinding for longer hours. It is about working smarter, with full attention and clarity. It is about doing less, but doing it better. And most importantly, it is about making time for the kind of work that actually moves you forward. Throughout this book, Newport outlines not just the theory behind deep work, but also practical strategies for implementing it in your life. From building daily rituals to quitting social media, from embracing boredom to draining shallow tasks from your schedule, you will learn how to build a life that supports true focus and excellence. So, as you listen to this audiobook summary on Books Arena, ask yourself, when was the last time you worked without distraction for an hour? Or even 30 minutes? When was the last time you felt fully immersed in a task, lost track of time, and came out of it feeling deeply satisfied? Deep work is not just a strategy. It is a mindset. It is a decision to value depth over noise, to choose focus over frenzy. And in the next parts of the series, we will take you step by step through the ideas, examples, and methods that will help you apply deep work in your own life. Stay tuned as we dive into part 1, Deep Work versus Shallow Work. Imagine two professionals sitting in the same office tower. One of them, let us call him Arjun, Works in a quiet corner of the floor. He is a software engineer. Arjun begins his day by planning a 3-hour block of undisturbed time. No meetings, no emails, no instant messaging. During those 3 hours, he works on developing the core algorithm of a new product for his company. His mind is fully immersed. He loses all sense of time, completely absorbed in solving a complex problem. At the end of the session, he has built something new, something that only deep, focused thinking could create. Now let us look at another person in the same building. Her name is Priya. She is a project manager. Her day starts with back-to-back meetings. She checks emails during those meetings, responds to messages on her phone, and updates reports in between. She switches between tasks every few minutes. At the end of the day, her calendar is full, her inbox is cleared, and she feels exhausted. But she wonders, what did I truly achieve today? Cal Newport uses this contrast to introduce us to two very different types of work, deep work and shallow work. Deep work, as Newport defines it, is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It is the type of work that pushes your skills to the limit. It allows you to produce at an elite level and to master complicated concepts. Deep work is writing a book chapter, designing a product, solving a mathematical problem, or conducting scientific research. It is valuable. It is rare. And it is becoming increasingly necessary. Now think about shallow work. This is the kind of work that does not require intense concentration. It can be done while half distracted. Answering emails, sitting in meetings with little contribution, browsing data without real analysis. This is shallow work. It may feel like work, but it does not bring deep value. And in most modern jobs, it is the kind of work that dominates the day. To understand why this distinction matters, consider how the economy has changed. We now live in what Newport calls the information economy. In this economy, those who succeed are the people who can quickly master hard things and produce at an elite level. These two abilities, learning and producing, both rely on deep work. A lawyer who can write airtight contracts without distraction. A coder who can build a clean, powerful application. A student who can study without reaching for the phone every 10 minutes. These people are the ones who will rise. But here is the paradox: while deep work is more valuable than ever, it is also more rare. Why? Because distraction is everywhere. Social media platforms, messaging apps, open office plans, constant meetings, all of these pull our attention away from depth. Companies often reward visible busyness over quiet concentration. Newport calls this the culture of connectivity, where being constantly available is seen as being productive. But in reality, it is often the opposite. Let us take a real-world example from history: Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist. In the early 1920s, as his work gained recognition, Jung found the constant noise of city life distracting. He built a stone tower retreat in the Swiss countryside. There, surrounded by nature and silence, he wrote some of his most profound psychological theories. That tower was his deep work sanctuary. He understood that to create something of lasting value, he needed focused solitude. You do not need a stone tower to do deep work. But you do need to create your own version of it, a space and time free from distractions, where your mind can go deep. Another example is Bill Gates. During his time at Microsoft, he would think weeks, isolating himself in a cabin with a pile of reading materials. No internet. No calls. Just thinking. Some of Microsoft's biggest innovations came from these weeks of pure focus. Now ask yourself, how much of your day is spent in deep work? And how much is lost to shallow tasks that keep you busy but not productive? Newport emphasizes that deep work is a skill, not a talent. Like playing the piano or training for a marathon, it requires practice. You must train your brain to resist distraction and to stay with a single task for longer periods. This is not easy in a world designed to fragment your attention, but it is possible and it is worth it. In the next part of this audiobook, we will explore the core idea that drives the rest of the book, the deep work hypothesis. Newport claims that the ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare and increasingly valuable in our economy. Those who cultivate this skill will thrive. Those who do not will struggle. Stay with us on Books Arena, as we continue this deep dive into deep work by Cal Newport. Part 2, the deep work hypothesis. At the heart of deep work lies one powerful idea that Cal Newport calls the deep work hypothesis. It is simple but bold: the ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare and increasingly valuable in our economy. As a result, those who cultivate the skill and make it the core of their professional life will thrive. To understand why deep work is becoming rare, picture a modern workspace. Open floor plans without privacy. Phones constantly buzzing. Emails arriving by the dozen. Colleagues dropping by without notice. Many organizations unintentionally promote what Newport calls the culture of connectivity, a belief that being constantly available and responsive is essential for doing good work. But this culture does not encourage deep thinking. Instead, it creates a workday filled with interruptions and surface-level tasks. In this setting, focus becomes a struggle, and deep work starts to disappear. Now consider why deep work is becoming more valuable than ever. In today's world, success often depends on two core skills: the ability to quickly master complex things, and the ability to produce high-quality work at an elite level. Both of these require focus, clarity, and cognitive intensity. In other words, they require deep work. Take the example of a machine learning engineer who needs to learn a new algorithm. That person must absorb challenging concepts, apply them in real time, and produce something useful. Or think of an author writing a novel, a surgeon performing a complex procedure, or a mathematician solving a previously unsolved problem. None of these tasks can be done with half your mind wandering or with constant interruptions. This is why deep work has become like a superpower. It allows people to learn faster and work better in a knowledge-based economy where value is increasingly tied to the depth of thought. J.K. Rowling is a great example of this principle. When she was writing the final Harry Potter book, she found herself constantly pulled away from her work by distractions. So she booked a suite at a luxury hotel in Edinburgh, specifically to isolate herself and focus. That environment gave her the uninterrupted mental space she needed to finish the last chapters of the series, some of the most important work of her career. Now contrast that with a writer working at a noisy cafe, constantly checking messages, or switching between browser tabs. The difference in quality, originality, and efficiency is enormous. Deep work is not just about working longer, it is about working better, in a way that few people today are truly doing. Another concept Newport introduces is what he calls attention residue. This refers to what happens in your mind when you switch from one task to another. When you move quickly from writing a report to checking a message, your focus does not transfer cleanly. A part of your brain remains stuck on the previous task. This leftover attention reduces your cognitive performance, making it harder to concentrate deeply on the next activity. You might think you are multitasking effectively, but in truth, you are weakening your ability to go deep with every switch. To make this clearer, think about a carpenter using a fine chisel on a block of wood. If that carpenter gets up every 5 minutes to answer a phone call or speak with someone, their hands may return to the tool, but their mind lags behind. Each interruption means re-entering the flow from the beginning. Precision suffers. The work takes longer and feels more exhausting. Modern professionals face the same struggle. Our digital tools make context switching easy, but that ease comes with a heavy cost: the erosion of our ability to go deep. Newport's hypothesis is not just philosophical, it has economic weight. Those who can perform deep work consistently will produce work of higher quality and at greater speed. These individuals will become rare assets in the workplace. Meanwhile, those stuck in shallow work cycles, always busy but never focused, will find themselves outpaced. This reality creates a divide in the modern economy. On one side are the deep workers, those who deliberately build their capacity for focus. On the other side are those who allow their attention to be shaped by algorithms, alerts, and endless distractions. The gap between these two groups is growing wider every year. To thrive in this landscape, one must treat deep work as a core skill. It is not enough to be available or responsive. What matters is your ability to solve hard problems, think independently, and produce valuable results consistently and efficiently. These are the qualities that employers seek, clients trust, and the market rewards. In the next part of this audiobook, we will explore the first rule Newport introduces for building a life centered around deep work: work deeply. This is where the practical journey begins: how to design your days, build rituals, and develop mental strength to support focus in a world that is fighting for your attention. Let us move forward. Part 3: Work deeply. To succeed in a world of increasing noise and decreasing attention spans, knowing that deep work is valuable is not enough. One must take deliberate, often difficult steps to make it a regular part of daily life. In this part, Cal Newport presents the first and perhaps most crucial rule: work deeply. Working deeply does not just happen. You must fight for it. The modern world is filled with traps designed to break your focus. Social media platforms are engineered to keep you scrolling. Email was created to be quick, but it has evolved into a constant stream of shallow demands. Even your workplace may unknowingly push you away from concentration with endless meetings, interruptions, and open office setups. So how does one protect and cultivate deep work? Newport offers several strategies rooted in real-life practices. Let us begin with rituals. Deep work, like physical training or meditation, thrives on routine. People often assume that deep thinkers operate in chaotic bursts of genius, but the truth is usually the opposite. High performers set up systems to make deep work automatic. Consider the daily habits of author and professor Mason Curry, who documented the routines of famous creators in his book Daily Rituals. Writers like Ernest Hemingway would rise early and write for several hours each morning. Charles Dickens would take long afternoon walks after writing all morning, letting his mind wander and reset. These routines were not just personal quirks, they were systems that protected deep focus. Newport encourages readers to build their own deep work rituals. This includes deciding where you will work deeply, such as a specific desk or location. For how long you will do it. How you will support the work, for example, by turning off devices or setting time limits, and how you will measure success, such as tracking word count, progress made, or hours spent. This intentional approach creates a psychological boundary between deep and shallow work. When you begin your deep work ritual, your brain learns that it is time to focus. Next comes the importance of embracing boredom. In a world of instant gratification, many people have lost the ability to sit quietly without reaching for their phone. But to master deep work, one must train the brain to tolerate boredom. Mental resistance to distraction is a muscle. If you constantly jump from one task to another, or switch screens every few minutes, that muscle becomes weak. Imagine trying to run a marathon without ever training your legs. In the same way, trying to do deep work without training your focus is a setup for failure. Newport recommends scheduling deep work like an athlete would schedule practice. Block off time on your calendar. Treat it as sacred. Eliminate access to distractions. If your phone is in your pocket, turn it off. If your email inbox is open, close it. Let others know that during this time, you are unavailable. The goal is to make deep work a regular habit, not something you do only when inspiration strikes. A powerful real-world example of this principle is Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter and Square. At one point, Dorsey was running both companies simultaneously. To manage such immense responsibility, he structured his week into themes. Mondays were for management, Tuesdays for product development, Wednesdays for marketing, and so on. This strict structure allowed him to focus deeply on each domain without constantly switching gears. You may not be running two companies, but the same principle applies. Structure your day. Protect blocks of time. Focus on one high-value task at a time. Another useful practice Newport describes is the concept of a shutdown ritual. At the end of each workday, take 10 to 15 minutes to review what you accomplished, plan for the next day, and make a clear decision to stop working. This reduces mental clutter and prevents your brain from constantly spinning in the background. You will rest better, and your focus will sharpen when it is time to return to work. This practice is backed by science. Studies in cognitive psychology show that when you offload uncompleted tasks onto a list or a planner, your brain stops holding onto them. You regain mental bandwidth. Newport also emphasizes that deep work is not just for elite professionals or academic scholars. Anyone who solves problems, builds things, or creates value with their mind can benefit. A high school student preparing for exams. A small business owner writing marketing content. A teacher designing a new curriculum. All of them can transform their results by making time to work deeply. But none of this will happen by accident. You must design a life that supports it. You must treat your attention as your most valuable asset. Most people do not. They give it away freely to every vibration, every notification, every browser tab. Those who do the opposite, those who protect their attention, will gain a massive advantage. Deep work is not just about doing more. It is about doing what matters most, with full focus, in less time. It is how you learn faster, think deeper, and produce results that last. In the next part, we will explore something that sounds counterintuitive but is essential for mastering deep focus. That is the need to embrace boredom. Because if you cannot be bored, you cannot go deep. Part 4, Embrace boredom. At first, it may sound strange. Why would anyone want to embrace boredom, especially in a world filled with stimulation at every turn? But Cal Newport argues that boredom is not your enemy, it is your training ground. If you want to work deeply, you must train your brain to tolerate the absence of novelty. You must practice being bored. Let us begin with a simple observation. Most people reach for their phone the moment they feel even a second of stillness. Waiting in line? Check messages. Sitting at a red light? Scroll through social media. Riding in an elevator? Open a news app. There is a constant need to be doing something, anything, to fill the silence. But this constant stimulation conditions the brain to expect novelty at all times. It becomes allergic to stillness. Now imagine what happens when that same person tries to focus on a complex task for more than 20 minutes. Their brain, trained by years of digital habits, becomes restless. It craves distraction. It is not used to sitting with difficulty, or staying on a single thought. That person may want to concentrate, but their mind will not let them. This is where boredom becomes essential. Newport explains that the ability to concentrate is a skill, and like any skill, it requires training. That training begins by rebuilding your tolerance for boredom. It means allowing your brain to sit in silence, to stay with one task even when it gets uncomfortable. Only then can you push through the resistance and reach the mental state where deep work happens. One of the core enemies of this training is what Newport calls attention switching. Each time you check your phone, respond to a message, or quickly open a new tab while working, your brain switches tasks. Even if it is just for a few seconds, the effects are deeper than they seem. Psychologists call this attention residue. After switching tasks, part of your mind remains stuck on the previous one. You may return to the main task, but your full cognitive power is not there. That residue slows down thinking, reduces performance, and breaks the flow of deep work. To overcome this, Newport suggests a powerful exercise: schedule your distractions. Instead of giving in to every impulse the moment it arises, create specific blocks of time in your day for checking email, browsing the internet, or using your phone. Outside those blocks, train yourself to stay focused. When the urge to check something arises, notice it but do not act on it. Tell yourself, I have time scheduled for that later. This approach may seem rigid, but it works. It builds discipline. It teaches your mind that it does not have to respond to every itch for stimulation. Over time, your brain becomes calmer, more focused, and better able to stay with one task for longer periods. A real-world example of this can be seen in the habits of novelist Neal Stephenson. Stephenson is known for writing long, complex books like Cryptonomicon and Anathem. He does not do book tours, rarely gives interviews, and avoids social media. Why? Because he knows that writing high-quality fiction requires long stretches of uninterrupted thought. He has chosen to limit his availability so he can dive deeper into his work. This is the kind of choice Newport encourages. It may not be possible for everyone to cut off all distractions, but anyone can start small. You can delay checking your phone for an hour. You can go for a walk without headphones. You can sit quietly with your thoughts for 10 minutes each day. These moments are like push-ups for your attention span. They build strength where it is needed most. Another method Newport suggests is practicing mindfulness. This does not have to mean meditation in a formal sense. It simply means paying attention to what you are doing without letting your mind drift. If you are washing dishes, notice the water, the sound, the rhythm. If you are walking, observe your surroundings. If you are working, stay with the task. This practice trains the mind to stay anchored, which is essential for deep work. Let us take a real-life comparison. Imagine a craftsman building a fine wooden cabinet. He does not check his phone every 5 minutes. He does not take random breaks to chat or scroll. His focus is on the grain of the wood, the alignment of the joints, the smoothness of the finish. That level of care and attention is what creates quality. The same principle applies to knowledge work. The deeper your focus, the higher your output and the more meaningful your results. By learning to embrace boredom, you are not punishing yourself. You are preparing yourself. You are building a mind that is strong enough to resist distraction and capable of creating something valuable. In the next part, we will explore one of the most controversial but liberating ideas in the book: why you should quit social media, and how doing so can actually improve, not limit, your productivity, creativity, and success. Part 5, Quit social media. Social media platforms promise connection, creativity, and even opportunity. But Cal Newport takes a very different view. In Deep Work, he argues that for most people, social media is a major source of distraction, fragmentation, and shallow thinking. His advice is clear and bold: quit social media, or at the very least, use it with deep intention. This does not mean Newport believes social media is evil. Rather, he believes that the costs are often hidden and the benefits are overstated. To truly understand his perspective, we must look at how social media shapes attention. Social platforms are designed to keep you coming back. They thrive on the attention economy, where every click, scroll, and reaction generates value not for you, but for the company behind the platform. The more time you spend on social media, the more advertisements they can show you. This is their business model. But your business, your craft, your calling, it is different. You do not earn your value by being constantly available. You earn it by producing results. That might be designing software, writing a novel, launching a product, or solving a problem. And these things require focus. To make this concrete, let us consider a graphic designer named Mira. Mira checks Instagram regularly. She follows other artists, finds inspiration, and even promotes her work there. But she notices something troubling. After scrolling for a few minutes, her energy drops. She starts comparing her work to others. She feels the urge to respond to comments, check likes, and follow trends. Hours go by each week. Her creative energy is slowly drained, not by her actual work, but by the platform she believes she needs. Newport would ask Mira to perform a simple test: what if she quit Instagram for 30 days? Would her professional life collapse? Would her creativity vanish? Or would she find more time, more clarity, and more space to do deep, original work? This is where Newport introduces what he calls the craftsman approach to tool selection. Instead of asking, could this be useful, you ask, does this tool provide significant positive value that outweighs its costs? It is not enough for a tool to offer a few benefits. It must offer benefits that clearly support your most important goals, and it must do so without draining your time or damaging your ability to concentrate. Many people use social media passively, without any strategy. They install the apps because others do. They check them by habit. Newport challenges that default. He believes that attention is too valuable to give away automatically. You should be deliberate. You should protect your cognitive space as carefully as a professional chef protects the quality of their ingredients. There are real-world examples that support Newport's argument. Take best-selling author and professor Adam Grant. He writes, teaches, and speaks at a high level. He is not on Twitter. He limits his availability. When asked why, he explains that every hour spent writing social media posts is an hour not spent crafting a meaningful book chapter or lesson. Or consider successful entrepreneurs like David Heinemeier Hansson, the creator of Ruby on Rails and co-founder of Basecamp. He has spoken openly about stepping away from social platforms to preserve his clarity and independence. By focusing deeply on his work rather than the digital noise, he has built tools and companies that have real impact. You may not be a world-famous author or programmer, but the principle still applies. Every hour spent on social media is time not spent learning a skill, finishing a project, or reflecting deeply. It is not about eliminating all entertainment or cutting off communication. It is about recognizing that your attention is a limited resource and treating it with respect. Newport also advises experimenting with a 30-day social media detox. During this period, you remove all optional digital distractions. No scrolling, no checking, no casual browsing. At the end of the month, ask yourself, what did I miss? What did I gain? Did your career fall apart, or did you gain hours of deep focus you had forgotten were even possible? Many people who try this report surprising results. They read more books. They feel less anxious. They think more clearly. Most importantly, they rediscover the mental stillness required for deep work. Of course, not everyone can quit social media completely. Some people use it professionally, to promote their work or build a brand. But even then, Newport advises extreme intentionality. If you use social media, set strict boundaries. Time box your usage. Turn off notifications. Create, post, and log off. Do not live on the platform. It all comes down to this: social media may offer small benefits, but it comes at the cost of your deepest mental clarity. And in a world where focus is rare, protecting that clarity is a competitive edge. In the next part, we will explore how to deal with the other half of the problem: shallow work. Even if you quit social media and block out distractions, shallow work will still try to creep into your schedule. The solution? You must learn how to drain the shallows. Part 6: Drain the shallows. After eliminating distractions and reducing digital noise, there is still one major obstacle that stands between you and deep work: shallow work. These are tasks that feel productive but rarely move the needle in any significant way. They consume time, fragment attention, and leave you exhausted without offering real value. In this part of the book, Cal Newport emphasizes the importance of draining the shallows, which means minimizing low-value tasks and making space for focused, meaningful work. Let us begin with understanding what shallow work looks like. These are tasks that are non-cognitively demanding, easy to replicate, and often performed while distracted. They include things like replying to emails, attending status meetings, writing reports no one reads, or updating spreadsheets. While these activities may be necessary to some extent, Newport argues that they should not dominate your workday. Consider the case of Ravi, a mid-level manager at a marketing firm. His calendar is packed with meetings. He spends hours responding to emails. Most of his day is spent juggling requests, handling minor issues, or giving approvals. Yet, at the end of the week, he often feels like he has accomplished nothing of real importance. He is constantly busy but rarely effective. This is the danger of shallow work. It gives the illusion of progress while preventing deep, valuable contributions. And the more shallow work fills your day, the less time and energy you have left for tasks that truly matter: creating strategies, solving complex problems, building something innovative. Newport suggests a powerful strategy to combat this: schedule every minute of your day. This might sound excessive at first, but it is actually a simple way to reclaim control over your time. You divide your work hours into blocks and assign each block a specific activity. The goal is not to lock yourself into a rigid system but to force yourself to think deliberately about how you spend your time. Let us take a real-world example. Jack Dorsey, co-founder of Twitter and Square, is known for managing two major companies at the same time. He does this by theme-based scheduling. Mondays are for management, Tuesdays for product development, Wednesdays for marketing, and so on. This structure reduces context switching and ensures that his attention is aligned with clear priorities. While most people do not run two companies, the principle applies universally: structured time is productive time. Newport also emphasizes that to drain the shallows, you must learn to say no often and without guilt. Shallow work thrives on your availability. It arrives in the form of quick requests, unplanned meetings, and vague expectations. If you are not careful, your day becomes a reaction to other people's priorities. By learning to say no to tasks that do not serve your goals, you protect your time for the deep work that does. For example, if someone asks you to attend a meeting with no clear agenda, you might respond by asking for clarification on your role and whether your presence is truly necessary. Often, this simple question either removes you from the meeting or prompts others to clarify and improve the meeting's purpose. In either case, your time is preserved. Another practical tool Newport suggests is identifying and reducing the shallow work that is unavoidable. Start by auditing your current tasks. List all your regular work activities and estimate how much time each one requires weekly. Then, classify each as deep or shallow. You may be surprised to find that shallow tasks dominate your schedule. Once you see this clearly, you can begin adjusting. One effective method is time blocking your deep work sessions first and fitting shallow work around them, not the other way around. If you treat your deep work like a non-negotiable appointment, it becomes protected time. You are less likely to sacrifice it for a last-minute email or an unscheduled meeting. Newport also introduces the concept of a shallow work budget. This is the maximum number of hours per week you will allow for low-value tasks. For instance, you might decide that no more than 30% of your time can be spent on shallow work. This forces you to be selective and efficient. It creates pressure to automate, delegate, or eliminate tasks that do not align with your most important objectives. One real-world comparison comes from the world of academia. Professors are expected to teach, attend committees, and respond to administrative tasks. But the most successful academics set strict boundaries. They block out large portions of time for research and writing, and they guard those blocks fiercely. This discipline often results in breakthrough publications and lasting impact outcomes that are only possible through deep work. Let us return to the story of Ravi, the marketing manager. After learning about shallow work, he starts restructuring his day. He blocks out 2 hours each morning for strategy planning and campaign development, his most cognitively demanding tasks. He moves meetings to the afternoon. He sets email checks to only twice per day. Within a few weeks, Ravi sees a noticeable improvement. He feels less overwhelmed and more fulfilled. His ideas are sharper, and his team notices the difference. This is the power of draining the shallows. It is not about eliminating every minor task. It is about recognizing which activities produce real results and building your schedule around them. When you focus your time on work that matters, your performance improves, your stress decreases, and your sense of purpose deepens. In the next and final part, we will tie everything together by understanding what it truly means to embrace a philosophy of deep work in your life and career. We will see how to build systems and habits that support long-term focus, creativity, and excellence. Part 7, The Deep Life. Everything Cal Newport teaches in deep work points toward a bigger, more powerful idea, what he calls the deep life. This is not just about changing how you work. It is about transforming how you live. The deep life is one centered around focus, purpose, craftsmanship, and meaning. It is a life where attention is not scattered but directed, not hijacked but mastered. To understand what the deep life looks like, imagine a person like Sarah, a software developer in her early 30s. In the past, she used to work long hours, always chasing deadlines, constantly distracted by Slack messages, emails, and endless notifications. Her workday would blend into her evenings. Weekends were often spent catching up on tasks. She felt tired, anxious, and uncertain if she was making any meaningful progress. Then, inspired by the ideas in deep work, Sarah made deliberate changes. She redesigned her schedule around deep work sessions. She eliminated unnecessary meetings. She began each day with a clear plan. She stopped using her phone in the first hour of the morning and during her deep work blocks. Slowly, she began to feel a shift. Her mind was sharper. Her work was more creative. And for the first time in years, she began to feel proud of what she was building. This is what the deep life looks like. It is not just about productivity. It is about living with intention. Cal Newport makes it clear that deep work is not something you sprinkle into a busy day like a side dish. It is the main course. And building a life around deep work requires more than tips and tricks. It requires adopting a philosophy of depth, a belief that the best things in life come from focused effort and sustained attention. One major principle of the deep life is ritual and routine. You must create systems that protect your focus. This might include setting up a specific workspace, blocking off deep work hours every morning, or creating shutdown rituals that mark the end of your workday. These small habits help reduce decision fatigue and protect your cognitive energy. Real-world high performers often live by these rituals. Take authors like Haruki Murakami. He follows the same schedule every day, wakes at 4 in the morning, writes for 5 hours, runs, reads, and then goes to bed early. His routine is not glamorous, but it allows for deep, uninterrupted creation. This kind of discipline is what makes consistent brilliance possible. Another core aspect of the deep life is meaningful leisure. Newport argues that after deep work, the best way to recover is not mindless screen time but high-quality downtime, spending time with family, pursuing hobbies, reading, or engaging in physical activities. These experiences recharge the mind and reinforce a well-rounded life. Let us consider Rahul, a startup founder. His days are packed with decisions, coding sessions, and strategy meetings. After reading deep work, he replaces his evening scrolling sessions with guitar practice. What started as a small experiment becomes a major source of joy and renewal. He finds that practicing an instrument helps him disconnect, restore energy, and return to work with more clarity. The deep life also involves limiting the shallow by default. This means setting rules to prevent shallow tasks from taking over your time. For example, checking email only at certain times, turning off all notifications, or even choosing not to have a smartphone. These rules may seem extreme to some, but for those who value depth, they are necessary boundaries. Newport reminds us that choosing a deep life often means going against the grain. Society celebrates speed, connectivity, and busyness. The deep life requires slowness, solitude, and sustained attention, traits that are often undervalued. But those who embrace depth often rise above the noise. They become the rare individuals who build things that matter. We can see this in people like J.K. Rowling, who wrote much of Harry Potter in cafes without Wi-Fi. Or in artists like Georgia O'Keeffe, who lived in remote desert solitude to protect her inspiration. These individuals knew that great work comes from going deep and that depth requires sacrifice. Newport also explains that the deep life is not just for artists or intellectuals. It is for anyone who wants to live with focus and fulfillment. Whether you are a teacher, a designer, a doctor, or a student, you can shape your life around what matters most. You can build routines that support depth. You can reduce distractions, protect your attention, and create something meaningful. But perhaps the most important takeaway is this: depth is a skill. And like any skill, it improves with practice. The more you build your capacity for focus, the more naturally it will come. At first, deep work feels hard. You may feel restless or bored. But over time, your mind adapts. You begin to crave silence. You start producing better work in less time. You feel calmer, clearer, more purposeful. In a world full of noise, choosing the deep life is a radical act. It is a statement that you value quality over quantity, substance over surface, intention over impulse. It is a path that not only makes you more productive, but also more human. As we conclude this journey through deep work, let us remember this: your attention is your life. Where you place it, what you give it to, that is what grows. If you protect it, nurture it, and focus it on meaningful goals, you can build a life not just of success but of depth. You have just completed a deep dive into Deep Work by Cal Newport, a book that is not only a guide to focused productivity but a manifesto for living with intention. In a world that constantly pulls our attention in every direction, Newport gives us a roadmap back to clarity, purpose, and excellence. The message is simple but powerful: distraction is easy, but depth is rare and therefore valuable. If you want to stand out, to create something meaningful, to truly master your craft, you must go deep. This does not require a genius mind or endless hours. It requires commitment, structure, and the courage to step away from noise and into focus. We hope this audiobook summary has helped you understand not just how to practice deep work, but why it matters. At Books Arena, we bring you the best books with practical insights and real-world relevance so you can apply these lessons today, not someday. If you found value in this, make sure to check out our other summaries, and remember, the best work you will ever do will come from the deepest part of your attention. Until next time, keep reading, keep learning, and stay deep. Summary of Deep Work. Here is a quick recap of the major parts we have covered. Part 1, the Deep Work Hypothesis. We explored how deep work creates value, improves skill, and leads to fulfillment, while shallow work holds us back in a distracted digital world. Part 2, the rules for deep work. Cal Newport introduced 4 powerful rules: work deeply, embrace boredom, quit social media, and drain the shallows. These principles are the backbone of a focused life. Part 3, work deeply. This section shared real-world strategies to build rituals, routines, and environments that support concentration and eliminate distractions. Part 4, embrace boredom. We learned that resisting the urge for constant stimulation strengthens focus. Training your mind to be okay with boredom builds mental toughness. Part 5, quit social media. Newport challenges us to rethink the value of digital tools. If something distracts more than it helps, it may not be worth your time. Part 6, drain the shallows. We discussed how to reduce low-value tasks through scheduling, time blocking, and saying no, so more of your time is spent on high-impact work. Part 7, the deep life. Finally, we looked at how deep work can become the foundation of a rich, meaningful life. A life not driven by distraction, but by deliberate, focused living.